Hey guys, welcome back to the Geekbox. So today we're doing another top 10 video. So, well, top 10's a bit of a skip in this one. So this video is going to be 10 games that dominated their launch. So to do an actual list of like my top 10 games that dominated would be really hard. To do just a top 10 list of games that dominated their launch would be crazy. It'd be after like a top 100 probably for going over time. So I'm picking out 10 that stood out for me over the years that I've been playing gaming, and you'll see by the range, the sort of, I grew up in the 90s, 2000s playing games. Obviously that was my childhood, my teen years. So here's the list as it is. See, if you like this video, please hit that like button. If you haven't already, hit that subscribe button, stay updated all the latest content. And it's not on the list, but I would like to give a shout out to Tetris, the granddaddy that started this sort of revolution in gaming, where games went from being popular to being great on a grand scale. And if you haven't already, I would suggest, well, check out the program they did about the history of Tetris. It's a great watch. But anyway, that's enough of that. So let's get into the video. So starting us off is one of my all-time favourites, the original Doom. Now I think Doom fell into this gap of there was still a lot of people getting into gaming at this time, but it was one of the first games that I can remember where it was everywhere. As in, John Romero was like the first games creator that I became familiar with because of seeing the interviews, the magazine articles, and obviously I loved Doom itself because it was one of the first games like this that I ever actually played. I remember me and my Adam playing it and taking turns on it, so Doom definitely had to be the one that started off this list. Starting off its own legacy, Crash Bandicoot is just, it was one of those games where I think Sony really showed their power and being able to step up and create these sorts of platform adventure type games and stuff, and Crash Bandicoot just was everywhere. And I know part of the idea was they wanted Crash Bandicoot to be like the mascot for the PlayStation logo, but Crash Bandicoot, wherever you looked, you found this game on demos, in magazines, on TV shows. Games Master covered it loads of times. So Crash Bandicoot definitely is one of those icons of just dominated when it hit the market.
This is Snake. Colonel, can you hear me?
Loud and clear. What's the situation, Snake?
Looks like the elevator in the back is the only way up.
Onto another PlayStation classic, probably the PlayStation classic for me, Metal Gear Solid. Obviously, playing the original games, which were just basic sneak around games in general, Metal Gear was not that, well, expansive as the series originally, but Metal Gear Solid absolutely launched it into the stratosphere, and to this day we're still seeing all the different Metal Gear games, the Master Collection that's just come out. Metal Gear Solid has created a legacy and a fan base that is everywhere, and you've got some people that are absolute fanatics about this series, and it just absolutely dominated every game around it when it came out for its time, and because it was just so advanced compared to anything else that we'd seen on the market at that time. Over onto the Xbox side, Halo, the game that I personally think made Xbox. Now, obviously, Halo has just had its own legacy over the years, but when it came out, with the idea of it being combat evolved, for a lot of people, it seriously was combat evolved. This game had so many people go mad about it. I mean, Halo was just an amazing first-person shooter game. It really had stepped up to the next level of what a first-person shooter could be. The storyline itself was amazing, and it introduced a newer and more up-to-date idea of what a multiplayer game would be like as well. And of course, it introduced us to teabagging, so thanks, Halo.
SAP, better follow me. You're in my way. Ow, man.
Final Fantasy VII. Who doesn't know Final Fantasy VII? This game just swept the market when it came in. It was the first 3D Final Fantasy game. It had more in it than the other Final Fantasy games it had before. For, I'd say, the majority of the Final Fantasy fan base, Final Fantasy VII was the introduction to Final Fantasy for them. I was already a Final Fantasy fan because I'd fallen in love with Final Fantasy back with Final Fantasy V when I played it, as I was lucky enough to come across that by accident. But Final Fantasy VII just swept everything. I mean, everybody knows, if they played the game or not, they know the characters, they know the base story. It's been expanded out into things like Smash Bros. Obviously, we had Crisis Core get off the side of it. We've had a remake of Final Fantasy VII now that's still going at the moment, and they're bringing out another part to it. So Final Fantasy VII in its own right just absolutely wiped the floor with everybody once it got traction upon its launch. GoldenEye. Who doesn't know GoldenEye? And not just the film, of course, the game on the N64. This for me has been one of the most dominating games of my personal experience that made me a gamer. Now, I remember getting GoldenEye with the N64 for Christmas, and it was completely different. It was smooth. The levels, just even though it was a point A to B style game, just going through and shooting and going to iconic locations from the game and just doing all those little bits, it was just an amazing experience. Then once you got into other things with it, like the speed running, etc., doing the extra missions, the different difficulty settings, GoldenEye really was its own game. But what really set it out from other games at the time was the multiplayer mode. Multiplayer on GoldenEye became one of the most iconic things in gaming, and I just remember almost everybody I knew had GoldenEye. The Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time, my personal favourite game of all time. This game sums up for me my childhood gaming, and it was because there'd been so many adventure games that come out before this, but Ocarina of Time just absolutely blew everything out of the water. It was so far ahead of itself when it came out. So much to do, such an open world. They really captured that exploration side of The Legend of Zelda, brought it into a fully fleshed out 3D world, and with such additions as being able to look in first person with it, explore realms, ride around on Epona, obviously being able to do all the mini games in, etc., and a really good story as well. This game was just above and beyond anything that was around at the time. Sonic the Hedgehog. How can you not see Sonic the Hedgehog as one of the most inspiring games in gaming history? This was one of the games that set the path. It started the 90s off in true. Obviously it launched a whole new level of gamers, introduced a whole new load of people, especially with the Mega Drive, the Master System, or see the Genesis if you're in America. But it just launched off everything with gaming in that level. It was so far ahead of so many things that had been put in beforehand. The speed element, the level design, the music. Sonic the Hedgehog truly is an icon that just exploded into the market, and even now it's had its ups and downs, but it's stayed strong. It's even had like a rejuvenation with the movies and the games in the last few years. But as me as well, being someone that grew up playing Sonic and still has an obsession with it, I could attest to the fact that it was a game that just hit the market and destroyed everything around it for the first time it landed. And the only other game that ever stood up for it was our next entry. Yes, of course, Mario. Super Mario Brothers came out obviously in the late 80s originally, and it revolutionized what gaming was. We'd had so many other games, obviously people still playing the old style games. You got your Pongs, your Tetris, etc. And there was other games trying to strive out, but Super Mario Brothers was the first game that really just showed what games could be, how far the technology had come, and how creative people had become making these games as well. If nothing else, Mario taught us one thing, that the future of gaming was going to be a bright one. Of course, topping this list off, it had to be Pokemon. I mean, I can't think of any other game in history, as big a launches as some games have had, as impactful as they've been, whether it be the classic games, whether it be newer games. I can't think of any game in history that just took off like Pokemon did. And even now, Pokemon just dominates its own market. There are people that are nuts about collecting it. There's new games still coming out. There's obviously crazy money being paid out for the actual cards from the original series and stuff. So obviously Pokemon was just, it became a phenomenon, like overnight. It came out of Japan, hit Western shores, and the rest, as they say, is history. Anyway, thanks for watching the video, guys. If you like the video, hit that like button, and if you haven't already, hit that subscribe button to stay up to date on all the latest content. And of course, thanks for watching, guys. I love you all, and I will see you all out there.